From World Cup hero to cricket's most hated man, Bernard Julien traded glory for gold and lost everything. Bernard Julien had everything a cricketer could dream of. Standing tall with his bat raised high, celebrating the West Indies' first-ever World Cup victory in 1975, he was on top of the world. The crowd roared, his teammates cheered, and millions across the Caribbean called him a hero. This moment should have been the beginning of a legendary career that would be remembered for generations. Instead, it became the peak before a devastating fall that would make him one of cricket's most controversial figures. Born on March 13, 1950, in the beautiful islands of Trinidad and Tobago, Bernard Julien was a natural athlete. As a young boy, he would spend hours hitting tennis balls with makeshift bats, dreaming of representing his country. His talent was obvious from the start. He could bowl fast, bat with power, and field like a panther. Coaches saw something special in this tall, athletic teenager. By his early 20s, he had already caught the attention of West Indies selectors. The 1970s were magical times for West Indies cricket. They had players like Viv Richards, Clive Lloyd, and Gordon Greenidge, who were feared around the world. Julien fit perfectly into this star-studded team. He made his Test debut in 1973 against England and immediately showed why he belonged at the highest level. His bowling was sharp, his batting was aggressive, and his fielding was athletic. In just 24 Test matches, he proved he was a genuine all-rounder who could change games with both bat and ball. But it was the 1975 World Cup that truly made Julien a household name. The tournament was held in England, and the West Indies went in as underdogs. Many experts thought the English team would win on home soil, or maybe the mighty Australians would claim the trophy. Nobody expected a bunch of Caribbean cricketers to make history. Julien was a key member of that squad, contributing with both bat and ball throughout the tournament. When Clive Lloyd lifted the trophy at Lord's, Julien was right there celebrating with his teammates. They had made history, and he was part of it. The victory celebration lasted for weeks. When the team returned to the Caribbean, they were treated like kings. Thousands lined the streets, parties went on for days, and everyone wanted to touch these heroes. Julien enjoyed every moment of it. He was young, successful, and had a bright future ahead of him. County cricket teams in England were already showing interest, and his international career looked set to continue for many years. In 1977, everything changed. Kerry Packer, an Australian media mogul, decided to revolutionize cricket by starting his own competition called World Series Cricket. He offered huge amounts of money to the best players in the world, much more than they were earning from their national boards. Many top players, including Julien, were tempted by these offers. The money was life-changing, especially for players from the Caribbean, where cricket boards couldn't afford to pay their stars properly. Julien joined World Series Cricket along with many of his West Indies teammates. This move caused huge controversy. Traditional cricket authorities were furious that players were abandoning international cricket for money. There were legal battles, heated arguments, and lots of bad publicity. However, most players who joined World Series Cricket eventually returned to international cricket when the dispute was resolved. Julien seemed to be on track to continue his West Indies career and build on his World Cup success. Around the same time, Julien was making a name for himself in English county cricket. He joined Kent County Cricket Club and became one of their star players. Between 1970 and 1977, he was a regular in their team, helping them win several trophies. English cricket fans loved watching him play. His aggressive batting style and pace bowling made him a crowd favorite. He was earning good money, living a comfortable life, and seemed to have found the perfect balance between county cricket and international duties. Everything appeared to be going perfectly for Bernard Julien. He had won the World Cup, played successful county cricket, survived the World Series cricket controversy, and was still a key player for the West Indies. At 32 years old, he had several more years of cricket left in him. His experience and skills were valuable assets for any team. Many expected him to play in the 1979 World Cup, and possibly even the 1983 tournament. His future looked bright and secure. But then came the offer that would destroy everything he had worked for. In the early 1980s, South Africa was isolated from international sports because of their apartheid system, a racist policy that separated people based on their skin color. The rest of the world had refused to play against South Africa until they changed their discriminatory laws. This isolation meant South African cricket fans hadn't seen international stars play in their country for years. Some businessmen in South Africa came up with a plan to bring international cricketers to play unofficial tours. They offered enormous amounts of money, much more than players could earn anywhere else. For each tour, players were offered between $100,000 and $120,000, which was an incredible amount in those days. To put this in perspective, most international cricketers were earning only a few $1,000s per year from their national boards. The money was tempting, but there was a huge catch. Any player who went on these rebel tours would be banned from international cricket. The International Cricket Conference, the United Nations, and governments around the world had made it clear that they strongly opposed these tours. They saw them as supporting the apartheid system by breaking the sporting boycott. Players who participated would be considered traitors to the anti-apartheid movement. For Julien, this created an impossible choice. On one side was more money than he had ever seen in his life, enough to secure his family's future forever. On the other side was his international career, his reputation, and the respect of cricket fans around the world. The decision should have been easy for someone who had already achieved so much, but the money was just too attractive. In 1982, Bernard Julien made the decision that would haunt him for the rest of his life. He agreed to join the first rebel tour to South Africa. Along with several other West Indies players, he secretly flew to South Africa to play cricket for money, while his country and the rest of the Caribbean community stood firmly against apartheid. The news broke like a thunderbolt across the cricket world. The reaction was swift and brutal. The West Indies Cricket Board immediately banned all players who had joined the rebel tour. This wasn't a temporary suspension or a slap on the wrist. It was a complete life ban from all forms of cricket in the West Indies. Julien and his fellow rebels were told they would never play for their country again, never play in regional competitions, and never be welcomed back into West Indies cricket. The public reaction was even worse than the official punishment. Across the Caribbean, people felt betrayed and disgusted. Here were players who had been treated like heroes, who had been given everything by their communities, and they had sold out for money. Many fans felt personally hurt, as if their own family members had betrayed them. Julien's reputation went from hero to villain overnight, but the money was so good that Julien decided to go back. In 1983-84, he joined a second rebel tour to South Africa. This decision sealed his fate permanently. If there had been any small chance of forgiveness after the first tour, the second tour eliminated it completely. He was now seen not as someone who made one terrible mistake, but as someone who was willingly supporting apartheid for personal gain. The rebel tours were organized in complete secrecy. Players had to sneak out of their countries, lie to their families and friends about where they were going, and play cricket while the rest of the world condemned them. The matches were well attended. In South Africa, where cricket-starved fans were happy to see international stars, but the players lived under constant stress and criticism. Meanwhile, back in the Caribbean, Julien's former teammates continued to represent the West Indies with pride. They went on to win the 1979 World Cup without him, then dominated world cricket throughout the 1980s, winning the 1983 World Cup as well. Players like Viv Richards, Malcolm Marshall, and Joel Garner became legends of the game. These could have been Julien's teammates and fellow legends, but instead, he was playing exhibition matches for money while being hated by cricket fans worldwide. The personal cost of his decision became clear very quickly. Julien found himself isolated from the cricket community that had been his life for over a decade. Former teammates refused to speak to him. Cricket boards wouldn't hire him as a coach or commentator. Sponsors didn't want to be associated with him. The man who had once been celebrated as a World Cup winner was now treated like a pariah. His family also suffered because of his choices. In the tight-knit Caribbean community, being associated with someone who had supported apartheid brought shame and embarrassment. Children of rebel tour players were sometimes bullied at school. Wives and parents had to deal with angry comments from neighbors and friends. The money Julien had earned came at a huge social cost for everyone close to him. The financial gain, which had seemed so attractive, didn't last as long as the consequences. While the rebel tour payments were substantial, they weren't enough to compensate for a lifetime ban from professional cricket. Julien lost out on years of potential earnings, from county cricket, coaching opportunities, commentary work, and endorsement deals. The short-term financial gain resulted in long-term financial loss. In 1989, 7 years after the first rebel tour, the bans on rebel tour players were finally lifted. The apartheid system was beginning to collapse, and there was hope that South Africa would soon rejoin international cricket. The cricket authorities decided to offer forgiveness to the players who had participated in the tours. This should have been Julien's chance for redemption, his opportunity to return to the cricket world and rebuild his reputation. However, forgiveness from cricket authorities didn't mean forgiveness from fans or fellow players. Most of the rebel tour participants found it impossible to return to top-level cricket. Only one player, Ezra Mosley, managed to play international cricket again after the ban was lifted. The others, including Julien, discovered that some bridges once burned cannot be rebuilt. By 1989, Julien was 39 years old, well past the age when most cricketers retire. Even if he had been welcomed back with open arms, his playing career was essentially over. The prime years of his career, from age 32 to 39, had been wasted in exile. These should have been his most experienced and valuable years as a player, but instead, he had spent them as cricket's outcast. The story of Bernard Julien became a cautionary tale that cricket authorities used to warn other players about the consequences of putting money ahead of integrity. Whenever rumors surfaced about players considering rebel tours or unsanctioned competitions, officials would point to Julien and ask, "Do you want to end up like him?" His name became synonymous with greed and betrayal in cricket circles. As the years passed, new generations of cricket fans learned about the rebel tours as a dark chapter in cricket history. Julien's name was mentioned not as a World Cup winner, but as an example of how talented players could destroy their own legacies. Young cricketers were taught that no amount of money was worth sacrificing their integrity and their country's respect. The personal toll on Julien continued long after his cricket career ended. In later years, he faced health challenges, including a battle with cancer. While some former cricketers enjoy comfortable retirements supported by pensions, testimonials, and ongoing work in cricket, Julien had to face these challenges largely alone. The cricket community that should have supported him had turned its back on him decades earlier. The tragedy of Bernard Julien's story is not just that he made bad decisions, but that he had so much to lose when he made them. Unlike some other rebel tour participants who had already achieved little in international cricket, Julien was a World Cup winner with a bright future ahead of him. He threw away a legacy that most cricketers can only dream of achieving. Today, Bernard Julien's story serves as one of sport's most powerful lessons about the importance of making ethical choices. His fall from World Cup hero to cricket outcast shows how quickly success can turn to disgrace when money becomes more important than principles. For anyone facing difficult choices between financial gain and moral integrity, his story provides a stark warning about the true cost of choosing money over values. Subscribe now to discover more untold stories of sports heroes who lost everything in pursuit of easy money.